we knew each other from before. And we were like, oh, this would be great to make an act of straps and skating together and really combine it. So we present, the poetry of skating, the movement, the flow, and then the strength of straps. And what I wanted to establish is to keep the flow, because a lot of time, you'll see a flight and it lands, or you see an acrobatic and then it stops. But what I wanted to flow was, so the flight would take off and then it would land and the skating would continue, and then the skating would continue and then the flight would take off. So there was always constant motion and
Good morning, Stuart.
Nice to virtually meet you.
Yeah, lovely to meet you here on Zoom. Thank you so much for agreeing to do the interview, because I saw you on LinkedIn and what you're doing, and I thought, wow, I never knew of air skating and all these wonderful things that you're doing in the air.
Yeah. No, it's I've actually found the LinkedIn platform a great way of connecting with a lot of different disciplines and meeting new people, especially in my field, from coming from sport and then going into the circus side of performing and coaching and training and all those different disciplines. So I found LinkedIn a great platform to collaborate with different people in different disciplines.
Yeah, true. And you are involved in Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah, so basically, I'll give you a bit of background of how the journey kind of happened, because it's quite a story to it. So I was a Great Britain sports acrobat for 10 years. So where I was in the men's force. So we were competing for Great Britain. We were ranked #1 in the world, and I was working with Russian coaches and English coaches. And so that development then took us
was that in gymnastics or what?
Yeah, it's a discipline called Sports Acrobatics. So you have your gymnastics, you have your artistic, which is your rings and P-bars, and then your rhythmic, which is more flexibility and balls and ribbons. And then we did Sports Acrobatics. What our sport is, unfortunately, it's a non-Olympic sport, but we did 2 World Games. So they're trying to get into Olympics at the minute, but actually sports acrobatics correlates very well to circus disciplines, because you're working with partners. It's high-level acrobatics, catching somersaults and balances, which then, like I say, correlates to acts like bankin and Russian swing and bateau and teeterboard, which are all the acts I've performed. So it's actually a very good kind of next journey after you finish competing to then train the circus disciplines.
But did you start off doing acrobatics?
Yeah, so I started at 11 years old doing gymnastics, and then I went into acrobatics, and then I started competing junior Great Britain at 13, and then senior from 15. And then I joined Cirque du Soleil at 25 in 2008. Okay. And at that time, it was Cirque was in a place where you would go there, it's called a formation generale, where you were there for 6 months, and they basically turn you from a competitor into an artist. So imagine what's a good analogy? Like Harry Potter, Hogwarts. Imagine that, but turning into a circus artist. Nice. So you're there, you're learning the acrobatic content, then you're learning the dance, the choreography, the makeup, the singing, the clowning, the jeu, the bouffon. So basically it takes you out of your comfort zones. It makes you be able to be a performer, be an artist on stage, because obviously gymnastics is very, you can't move, it's very strict. But then on stage, especially when you're doing 10 shows a week, you have to be able to improvise, you have to be able to adapt, you have to be able to save acrobatic skills. So they really teach you, and you really dive into learning how to become an artist and be able to perform 10 shows a week.
Actually, know of a ballet dancer. It's a boy who trained with my son at the Royal Ballet School, and he went on to do that. And I never knew. And now that you're saying that it's a lot about performing, also that that would, for a ballet dancer, be amazing to do that.
Oh, 100%. And now, especially with Cirque and other shows now, like we have characters. So that's where they'll bring in a ballet dancer, you know what I mean, and use his strengths and use his movement to then build that into a character for the show. So, for example, we had a trickster on Kooza. And so he was a tumbler, he was a dancer, and he was an acrobat, and he was the kind of main character that would be through the show. So he would dance in one place, he would be his character, then he would do his tumbling. So it really, like I say, it's the transition from, performing a ballet show to then integrating that into the circus side of things as well, because they're really trying to mold many different disciplines now to show more unique, say, characters and acrobatic elements too.
So it really brings sport and dance, or it brings these different elements together to be this creative but also physical entertainment then.
Yeah, exactly. And also it gives, especially if we've come from sport or we've been competing in ballet, it gives us opportunities after we finish competing to make a career out of it, which was my journey. Once I finished competing, it was like, okay, well, now you can go to a show, one, make a career out of it, get paid for it, and also you're doing what you love as well. You know what I mean? Which is the most important thing, because a lot of us, it's finding that passion that we can then turn into a career.
Did you find it easy to be this performer and to to sort of do the acrobatics but also be the performer?
Great question. Yeah. Well, there's two parts to that. The first is getting out your comfort zone and being able to improvise when everybody's watching you. It's like you've just got to kind of just go for it. You know what I mean? And it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong, if it's a success or failure. It's more taking that next step to get outside of your comfort zone. You know what I mean? To be the character. So I was a soldier character in Kooza. In Kurios, we were two twins working together, so moving as a character. So it's just learning to be able to turn yourself into this character, but also have the acrobatic level that's required for the shows. Because a lot of the time, it's when you're doing acrobatics, you're just focusing on the acrobatics, because obviously it's very, very high skill level. Mm-hmm. But then when you're a character into it, you have to maintain that character whilst doing the acrobatics and making it look easy. So it's just it just takes a lot of discipline, consistency and work to be able to mold that all together. And that's the beauty of what these formations was connecting that all together.
While you are talking now, my thought process is just like, yes, because when you're doing also gymnastics, it's about you. You are doing these sequels or these movements, but the moment you are performing, you are in a character, so it's not just about you anymore. So that must be also this whole different mindset that you have then. Also, as a sportsman, you probably, thinking about your achievement, whereas when you go into a character, then And like you say, with other people next to you, you have to think differently.
Yeah, exactly. And like through sport, there's the goal is, to win the competitions.
Oh, yeah.
So you've got that mentality, and to then perform for a company like Cirque, you need to get to a certain level and win these competitions to even be offered a contract. So it's like you're working at the highest and elite level, because if that's your career path, and you really want to go for that, you have to put the hours in. Like, we were training 6 days a week in the mornings, then going to school or university, then in the evenings, and then we were, to get to that level, to achieve the things we did in sport, to be able to have the opportunity to then go to Cirque. And then when you're in Cirque, then it's learning how to perform the same level of elite acrobatic skills, but in that character or in that act or with that show. And then an addition to that is obviously you're performing these skills for an audience. So it's connection with the audience, it's connection with who you're on stage. And then I was lucky because I had a Russian coach growing up, and I used to spend a lot of time in Russia before World Championships, training out there. But it's also working with different cultures and countries and ages, where you're in an environment where everybody's different. I'm British, but in my troupe, I was working with Russians, Belarusians, Ukrainians, Moldovans, Romanians. We're all from different cultures, all from different countries, but we're working to create this act at this high level of acrobatics. So the trust has to be there. Otherwise, it's not going to work. The communication has to be there, and the connection together on stage to perform the act has to be there.
And is this also different? Because if I spoke recently also to somebody who's in musical theater, and of course we know that in musical theater it's sometimes not because of that you're not a good dancer or a good singer, but it's sometimes about your height, or it's just about the look that they're looking for. So in circus, there's also this, that it's not just about the acrobatics that you do, but that type of what are they looking for?
Oh, 100%. I mean, literally, you have a criteria where it's your height, weight. So, for example, in acrobatics, I was a middle, so I was standing on 3 people's shoulders. So my height and weight had to be that to do that specific job role for that act. So I was catching somersaults on my shoulders. So, so my height and weight had to match that specific criteria to do that job. Luckily, I was sports acrobatics, so I was already a middle, so I could kind of fit into that role quite easily, because I'd already done it in sport. So then that correlated very well to acrobatics. But then when I changed and I was doing aerial, so I was flying duo straps and Kurios, we were twins, so we had to be the same height, the same weight, so we could move together. So luckily, we with my Russian brothers, I call them, we were the same height and weight. But if I was 6'2", it wouldn't have worked. Or if I was 10 kilograms heavier than my partner, it wouldn't have worked, because especially with the flights, there was a lot of catch releases. So if the weight's slightly off, it would change the dynamic of the flight. So that's, you can be more spot on. It's like that can determine a contract as well, because if you're not the same weight, you might have the skill level, but it doesn't fit the character or the role of the show.
That's always the difficult part of these things is, whereas in gymnastics, probably you win because you are good and, you did something good. But in theater and in these types of things, it's about what is produced.
Yeah, exactly. And but even in sport, like I say, I grew up with a Russian coach, and we, especially because I was in a men's four, so you had the 2 bases, which are the bigger guys. I was the middle, and then a flyer who's a smaller guy. But he would go around and he would look at the parents and go, okay, where will this gymnast,
really,
like if his parents are 6'3", okay, he's not going to be a flyer, but he could be a base. So he would pick and choose, especially in Russia, he would pick and choose from the parents which child he would choose to then create the group, so they had the greatest chance of success, because their weight and height matched that profile to create that, say, men's 4. And then again, with Cirque and Circus, it's then the character role that determines that too.
But as a child, were you already then, I mean, you said you started gymnastics at a young age. So were you always this active and not scared of heights and daring?
Yeah, well, when I was a kid, I was playing many different sports. I actually grew up in the Middle East, and so I was around an expat community, and I was in the Middle East till I was 10, 11. So I was playing football and rugby and swimming, and but on that note, like say I was swimming, you know, and when I came back to England, I was like swimming for my city, but I was never going to be a swimmer because I'm not 6'4", and so I had to make decisions of like. Then I got into gymnastics, and I was like, okay, which route is the best route for me to go here to achieve what I want to achieve as a sportsman? The same with football, especially in England. You've got thousands of kids trying to make it, you know what I mean? And sometimes the best don't. And so gymnastics, with my height and weight and the way my coaches trained me into this position, was the best route for me to take. And then it was just a journey of constantly growing as a gymnast, working with the men's 4, and then the next step to taking that to circus.
But you make it sound very sort of just, okay, you did it, but it's a lot of work and a lot of dedication and motivation. You have to probably motivate yourself a lot to be able to be on that standard.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's like the entertainment industry and being an artist, being a performer, it's a roller coaster of life. Like you get the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows. And what I find, if we get into mindset, is when you've got the highest of the highs, it's not to get too excited and too like, okay, I've done it, because the next day it could all change. And then the lowest of the lows is not to go into too much of a depression when, say, a contract doesn't work out where you thought it would, you know. And I think a great word to describe it is what I'm working alongside now, because I'm doing a lot of coaching consulting, and working with different companies and artists, is discipline. Is because the motivation and the inspiration can come and go. You know, you wake up in the morning, I'm really motivated to go, let's do it. Or you wake up in the morning and it's like, oh, do I really have to go to the gym? But it's putting your mindset of like, okay, this is discipline. So if I'm disciplined, then the consistency will be there. Then I can create the motivation, and then I can create the inspiration of getting to the gym and doing the work that needs to be done. And because the way I grew up in gymnastics, I gave myself no choice. Like, I didn't go on a family holiday for 10 years. I had maybe 2 sick days. You know, it was the mindset of like, okay, I'm here because I choose to be here. I'm here because I'm lucky to be here. I'm here because this is a passion. It's not like, oh, do I have to go to the gym today? Because also with my coach's mindset, it's like, if you don't want to be here, then there's the door. You know what I mean? Then fair play. And that sounds harsh, but that's the mentality you kind of have to have. And I'm seeing that as a coach now. I can give everything to the artist or the competitor, but especially in the day and age of where we are right now, where the, like, let's say in the polite way, the younger generation have a lot of opportunities here than we did when I was younger, especially. That it has to come from them. They have to show me that they want it, and then I can direct and mentor and coach them to achieve what they want to achieve.
I spoke to a ballet teacher the other day also, and we talked about this, where she said you're willing as a ballet teacher to give so much for your students, but they have to want it. You know, they have to show that they are working and that they really want to do it.
100%. And like, I do a lot of I have an aerial fitness online company where I've developed an aerial product. So I do a lot of like aerial and bodyweight hanging tutorials and subscriptions. So when I work with them, it's like, okay, this I'm giving you the education and the knowledge here, but you now have to take this and you have to go and train with it. Like, it's not going to happen by us students just doing one-on-one sessions once a week. Like, I give you this, and then it's your training homework to go and create the results and create the strength and the conditioning and the endurance you need to perform these skills to achieve what you want to achieve. But because, yeah, of course, I grew up training 6 days a week, so it's very one-on-one with my coach. But nowadays, it's especially if I'm doing online work, it's like you take this knowledge and now you go and work with it.
And also, I don't know if people always realize this long journey, this long, I mean, we say journey, but there's no other way. It's a path that you go on where you have, you have your good days, you have your bad days, you have injuries. You probably also struggle with this the same as dancers do, that in your career, you have to face the fact that you may have an injury as well.
Yeah, exactly, and that's it's a journey of life. It's a I call it a roller coaster of life, because and then it becomes not only the physical game of the injury, it's the mental game of the injury, because of being able to like recover yourself. And like I went through it, and it wasn't even from doing acrobatics. It's a silly but not silly, and funny but not funny story. I was taking I have a little Pomeranian called Mystère, and I was taking him for a walk in the park, and we were just running together, and he skipped in front, and I jumped and rolled over, but I rolled over on concrete, and I did ACCC on my shoulder, so my shoulder dropped, and it was my right shoulder, so this is my hanging arm, and from nothing, just playing with a dog in like my dog in the park. And so already, and I've been pretty good with injuries because I've always had that injury prevention and corrective exercise, but this was like completely out of the blue. And so first you start questioning how and why has this happened? Especially, it was COVID times 2 when we were doing auditions. I had to hang on my arm in 2 weeks' time to do an audition. Oh. And so I had to like reset my body to be able to hang, to be able to get this audition, because at that time we needed jobs. And then I worked closely with my physios, and luckily he was like, look, you can rehab this without a surgery. And so once I knew that, then my mental game was like, okay, I know how to push my body and I know how to fix myself now. And I just went like into a full training program of being able to reset my shoulder, reset how I hang on my shoulder, the positioning of the way I do skills I had to change. So that was a huge mind game every morning of one day you feel very strong, and the next day, you're struggling to hang. And it's like, so it's overcoming, or it's understanding and being patient. Okay, this is the situation. How am I going to resolve this? So it's compartmentalizing each day of like, okay, this is my goal for this week. And so you kind of periodize your training to recover from that injury. But it's, like I say, the physical side of things is more natural because you're used to working with your body, but it's having that mentality and learning how to, like I do a lot of meditation and breath work and stuff like that, to be able to deal with situations, especially like injuries.
I've also spoken to a few stunt coordinators, and we talk about the safety aspects of things. And do you also have to take that into consideration, because you do quite wild things?
Yeah. I've got a lot of our friends. They were gymnasts and then went to Cirque, and now they're either in LA or Vegas doing stunts and stuff. And it's great. It's actually very similar. Like especially if you're doing aerial stunts with harnesses and stuff, because it's all about say if we do an aerial flight, we break it down where we'll automate it. So we'll see the heights and the speeds, and then we'll put a sandbag on. We'll fly the flight to make sure everything is automated and correct before we put a human on it. And then we'll put the human on it and we'll just fly it to see how it feels. And then you add the skill development as it goes. So there's a very precise process between the team. So if I'm a coach for this, then I'll be speaking with my artist, I'll be speaking with my stage manager, and I'll be speaking with my technician, who's the automation, that we're all on the same page of what we're doing with each flight and how to achieve that flight. And then if I'm the artist, then I'm listening to my coach, my stage manager, my automation of like, okay, set, ready to go. Okay, they call it, and then I fly it, feel it out first, and then I'll progress the skill development into that flight. And this is super important because it's the process of doing these high level acrobatic skills in different environments to achieve what we want to achieve, but in a very safe and, let's say, processed way.
And it's like you say, different environments. So is it sometimes a little bit unpredictable where you go, or maybe the audience, reacts a certain way, or is there some things that can go wrong in situations where you are, there and it's a performance and you don't really know?
Yeah, so again, there's a couple of parts to that. So different environments could be, we are working in a theater, we're working in a big top, we're working in an arena, we're working in Vegas on the Strip. So those environments all change depending on, like in a big top area, you've got humidity, you've got temperatures, you've got that can all change. So if I'm on my straps, if we're in a city that's super humid, there's a bit more give. So you have to kind of adapt your technique to the environment and the humidity, or if it's cold, it's a little bit more stiffer. So you have to wait. So in a big top, you have to adapt to the weather environment. Sometimes in a theater, we just did a show in a theater. It was one of Cirque's first shows in a theater. But the environment, you had to adapt to that. Sometimes we didn't have warm-up spaces because the theater was a lot smaller. So I had to find places of like, okay, we can warm up here, we can train here, and then really be very time efficient in my trainings on stage to be able to get the artist ready for the show. And then in Vegas, it's obviously it's a much bigger stage productions here. And so, as their resident shows, there's a little bit more time to really work and develop the skills because, you are in the same environment, but then you have to, work it around all the different acts. So it's, it's both the environment of where you're performing, and then also, sometimes it's a live show, like 10 shows a week, and sometimes things do go wrong. Well, I had one incident where we're doing this massive flight. It's called jet flight, so it's super fast. We're like fly up pretty much to the ceiling, and automation, the button touched twice, so it went up and came back straight back down. So my partner's flown, but he's gone up, and then if the flight's come down, but he's already in position. So he's literally like a stone skimmed across the floor. We've looked at each other. It was just a human error, and these things happen. We looked at each other. He was like, "Okay, I'm good," and we did it again. And then after the act, we had a team meeting. He was like, "Look, I pressed the button twice. It was an accident," and these things do happen. And then you also have human error. If a skill doesn't work, like sometimes it just doesn't happen. But it's being able to safely save the skill. That's why it's so important. What I tell a lot of my artists is like, what we're going to focus on is how to save the skill and exit the skill than when it's perfect all the time. Because when it's perfect, it's all good. It's learning how to, when it's not perfect, how to save the skill to prevent injuries and prevent, any other possibilities that could go wrong.
Do you have an idea when you think, okay, this is going to be too dangerous, or this is going to be too risky to do a specific you don't call it or acrobatic display?
Yeah. So say if we're learning a new skill for a show or competition, so what we would do is we would learn the skill backstage, and we would be in a launch. So you're in a safety harness until everybody's safe and everybody knows they're confident in it. So say if I'll do it from an artist and a coach. So if I'm an artist, it's like working with my team. It's like, okay, yeah, we feel good. We're good. We'll talk with our coach and go, okay, let's take this out the launch, and we'll do it 3 times, and it has to catch 3 times. Then that's backstage. Then we'll take it to the stage, and then we'll do the same. So you're on a stage, it's a different environment. We'll do it in the launch, and then we'll take it out the launch. And then you'll do it in show conditions. So you'll do it in costume, you'll do it in lights, and we'll do it 3 times. It's safe. And then we make a collaborative decision between the artist, the coach, the artistic director, the tech team, that this acrobatic skill or flight will now be presented in the show. And then if I go from a coach point of view, then I'm working with my artists. So I'm very open, and I want artist feedback. Like as a coach, it's like I don't want to dictate and tell you what to do. Of course, we have a plan of action, but I like it again to be a collaborative effort with the artist, with the stage manager, with artistic director, that we have a plan, that we're all on the same vision, because the team that will make a skill happen. If you've got people having different opinions and this and that, then we stop and we find a way that this is a safe way, that we're all on the same alignment, the same vision to get this skill into the show. And then, yeah, I'll speak with my artists or my tech team and go, okay, we feel good, we feel safe. Okay, we'll take it out the launch. Okay, we'll do it in show conditions. And then at the end, if everything's gone smoothly, everybody feels confident, then we make a team decision of like, okay, we'll put this in the show. So for me, it's very important, the team that you work with, that you're all aligned with the same vision to create the acrobatic quality and the artistic quality for the show and for the audience.
So there's a lot of planning going into something like that, and you have to, and the responsibility as well.
Yeah, exactly. But I feel for me, what's important is a shared responsibility. So then it doesn't put too much pressure on, of course, the coach and the AD, artistic director and the coach and the physio, will have final say. But if we connect it as a shared responsibility, then we're all working for the same goal. It's not like you have to do this and you have to do this. It's like, okay, how can we periodize this training that everybody's on the same page to achieve the timeline of when we want this in the show.
And your costumes, so this is also something that I just thought about. Yes, you're not doing it just with the bare minimum. You are in full costume when you do that. Yeah,
exactly. And then the costumes can make a huge difference, because if they're heavy or if they get in the way of movements with our body, then we work very closely with the costume team to make it as comfortable as possible for the act. But then, like for example, in our when we were doing our dual strap act, we were twins, so we actually had magnets on the inside of our legs, so our legs would stay together, and then we would release and come in. So one side was a little heavier than the other because we had magnets in, which changed the dynamic sometimes. Say if you're pressing the handstand, or if you're turning into like an aerial skill. So yeah, the costumes make a huge difference, and that's when it comes into show conditions, where it's like I like my artists to have the costumes on when they perform the skills. So because it can be very different than just wearing training clothes, for example.
What is the sort of age that you say that still you are able to do this?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's it all depends on how you look after yourself. Okay, I'm in my 40s now, and I still have my act air skating, so I created an act which is straps and skating. So I put 2 disciplines together because I wanted a more unique and innovative act to present, where we do a lot of events right now. But I've created the act where it's not like I'm doing competition level acrobatics. It's more of an artistic act, because now it's about longevity of the body rather than trying to learn new tricks. So I think in a stage of your career, you know, when you're younger and you're competing and then you first go to Cirque, you want to do the biggest and craziest tricks. But then once you've already had a 20-year career, it's learning how to adapt the act for longevity rather than trying to learn new skills all the time. You know, there's times of when, okay, I want to learn this new skill for this act, but then there's times where now my act is about performing. It's about interacting with the audience. It's about creating a piece that's artistic, that, you know, that people can, you know, watch and be mesmerized or have some emotion to it. So it's yeah, it all depends. I mean, if say you're, you know, some of the skills we did in a teeter board act in Kooza, like they're doing 5 somersaults, you know, and triple on stilts and stuff like this. So there is a cutoff limit, because, you know, it's like a few of my physios, my brother would just say, it's like wear and repair. You know what I mean? That the body, you know, that impact, that damage, that years of training, you know, it will catch up with you. But as long as you also do a lot of your injury prevention, corrective exercise, and maintenance, I would call it, then you can kind of determine when you're like, okay, I'm at age now where, okay, let's maybe lower the acrobatics and focus on the artistic side, or even change acts at some points. Like a lot of acrobats would maybe go to character work, or coaching or technicians.
Was it a natural thing for you? Did you give yourself a time, you know, like an age, and say, okay, I'm going to do this up to this age? Or was it just gradually that you started feeling, okay, I'm going to move into something else?
Yeah, for me, I was always coaching when I was a gymnast as well. So we would be training, and then we would coach, you know, the junior team and the younger gymnasts. So that's always been like part of my life. And then through my journey with Cirque, I was like, as an artist, then I was strength and conditioning artist coach, then I was artist coach for the act, and then I became head coach for our last show. And then also, while I was still performing, I have like I say, I have an online aerial fitness bodies business. So I've developed a product, and then I work with a lot of artists. And now I'm back in Vegas for this period. I'm going each weekend to different workshops with studios to work with their artists, to work with their coaches, to help develop their training programs. And then I have a breathing performance business as well, with my old physio that I work with on a show out in Australia. And we're doing a course right now with free divers. So it's like, we've got our free diver specialist, me as a coach, and him as a physio. So again, it's about a team environment of giving our specialist knowledge to help them, you know, if it's free diving specific, to help them with that mindset and that breath work. So it's always been, it's a lifestyle to me, you know. So the transition's been very natural, because I've done it together with competing, performing, and coaching. And so now now I'm at a stage where I feel it's about giving back and sharing knowledge and more importantly, experience, because I feel from my experience of having the experience of competing, performing, and coaching with different environments, cultures, shows, and companies, it's I can share and understand the artists and the directors and the stage managers, because I've been fortunate enough to work with many people. And I think that for me, that really helped me when I was working with my coaches, because they had the same path. Because for me, it's about, I think the experience is a lot more, you understand the situation and the artist a lot more than, say, if you've just read a book, or you've got a degree in sports science, which is always very helpful. But I've always found, because I've got both, I've got the degree and the experience. So I found I can understand and help artists more, because I've been in their position.
So if that makes sense, so I can understand them to achieve what they want to achieve.
Totally, yeah. I spoke to a ballet teacher also from Elmhurst, and he also talked about how he's almost coached the students also about auditioning and about how you how you react to a no, and how you put yourself out there and how you try again. So it's that mental side, because like you said also before, the physical side is there, but then it's that mental side of how do I deal with an injury, or how do I deal with a rejection, or something like that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that is for me, that's half the game, because I know if you're here, if you're working with it, then I know you've trained to a level to be able to get this position for this show. But a lot of my conversations outside the training gym or outside the show is I get questions all the time of, even how do I submit videos for casting? How do I not, because you're going to get rejected, and you're going to get the best contracts in the world and then the worst contracts in the world. And you're going to get rejected and you don't understand why, because you think you're the perfect person for it. So it's going back to having that emotional response and mindset where you don't take it too personally. And sometimes it can be a little personal, because especially if you know the people, but it's because then if you take it personally, like, you beat yourself up that you don't get the contract, and then you want to work harder. But sometimes it can, and then you've got the whole subjective issue with everything, because some directors might just like someone else more than your profile, or might really like your profile than someone else's. So it's there's so many factors for it, of the mental game of not like I say, not getting too excited when the highest of the highs, and not getting too down with the lowest of the lows, because at any time, you could be in the dream job, and like, for example, what we went through, we had just created a beautiful show, and then unfortunately the show closed due to the situation we are in the entertainment world right now. So you're like here, and then suddenly you've lost it, and then, especially when you're on a show and you've done a creation, it's a very family environment, you know what I mean? You're all in it together. So after that happened, I had a lot of artists reach out to me, because I like to really, really support them, not only in their acrobatic path, but their personal journey with the lifestyle of being an artist and on tour. And so, it's just keeping them kind of focused and motivated of like, okay, like, we need to let go and move forward, you know what I mean? But we also need that transition of accepting what's happened. And it's hard sometimes, because like, you give your life to these things. It's not just like any kind of old job. You're giving your body, your soul, your training, your time into these projects, especially when you're on stage. There's nothing else like being on stage where, you're letting everything go to the audience. And then, when you lose that, it sometimes can become an identity, of like, what am I now? Where am I going? What am I doing? It's like I say, I think the complication is more of the mind journey than the physical journey sometimes.
Yeah, because you put a lot of time and effort and, work into what you're doing to be able to perform at that level that you are. So it's totally understandable.
Yeah, because and that's completely correct. It's like maintaining that level, for the audience and for yourself, and with the different environments. What I kind of like to do, like, is especially to have contingencies of skills and acts, So we have, say, the premiere version, and then we have a weak version, and then we have a kind of backup version, depending on how the artist's bodies are feeling and where we are, because and injuries come into that as well. If we're a little bit sore, if we've got some shoulder or hip injuries, then we can adapt skills and positions and movements so we don't make the injury worse, but we can still perform the act because the audience are out there. Because at the end of the day, we have to put a show on for the 8 p.m. show, and we have to have backup plans and contingencies to do that.
But about the air skating, explain to me a little bit more about what you do exactly. How did you bring the two art forms together?
Yeah, so if I go back to the beginning, I was in Montreal working on a project with Cirque, and my partner, who I created the app with, was working on a show there, and she was a professional figure skater, and she was doing an aerial, like a character piece with aerial and skating, and then I was doing straps, and we just spoke to each other. It was like we knew each other from before, and we were like, oh, this would be great to make an act of straps and skating together and really combine it. So we present, the poetry of skating, the movement, the flow, and then the strength of straps. And what I wanted to establish is to keep the flow, because a lot of time, you'll see a flight and it lands, or you see an acrobatic and then it stops. But what I wanted to flow was, so the flight would take off and then it would land and the skating would continue, and then the skating would continue and then the flight would take off. So there was always constant like motion and and poetry from the floor to the skies, basically, and then having that connection together where the two disciplines meet. Then it goes through this journey, and then say for example, I started with me in the air and then skating. Then we go on this journey together, and then it ends with Angela, who I created the app with, skating in the air, and then me on the floor. So it's like it's just like a creative journey together of understanding different disciplines and then connecting with each other. And also I think people can relate to it, because sometimes that's the journey of life as well. Like when you meet new people or you're going to different cultures, so yeah, it was something we worked on where, I just wanted to create something for ourselves, you know what I mean? And have that like creative experience.
But I think we love this whole idea that you do movement in the air, because I think it's this idea of flying, and I think we all have this sort of idea of flying, and that it's so beautiful, and that you do it in such a way that it's almost like the dance in the air and then coming back to the ice again.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we like to call it like poetry through motion, because that's it. Because whenever people see fly, it's like it goes back to the old like Superman, or you're seeing something like this where you're like, wow, like that's so impressive. And so it's
or
like
Tinkerbell.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like Peter Pan. Actually, it's funny. My lads from England call me Peter Pan because I'm still doing this, and I'm flying all over. Like they're very football, rugby boys. They weren't from gymnastics or Cirque. They're my real English lads. But yeah, so it's like, oh, well, how's Peter Pan doing today? I'm like, finding Never Never Land at the minute. So, but that's exactly it. It's and then where you create it, it's like even when we're in flight, like in some of the shows, we fly over the audience. So it's like having that connection with the audience while you're flying, and you see adults and kids like mesmerized by it. And so it's the beauty of giving these emotions and these feelings to an audience of, especially in the world we live in, sometimes, life is hard, and it's if they can come and watch these performances and they feel that maybe feeling of escape or happiness or joy, then we're just, that's a beautiful thing all around.
I think that's the beauty of art, that we can escape through art, and it can transport us somewhere where we can use our imagination, and that's lovely. Are you then doing all the choreography yourself as well?
So if it's for air skating, then we when we created our act, actually my partner, she was because she was a skater, she did more the kind of choreography. So she would do the choreography on the floor with the skates, and then I would do it in the air. So then we would connect that together. But for example, if we go and do a project with Cirque, then we'll have a choreographer come in and work with us for the character and the act. We'll have a choreographer and a coach come in, and we'll create that all together. So it's more, okay, well, we're doing this show. So then the choreographer will put the movement into it. The coach will put the skill sets that we have in aligned with the act, and then we'll create it all together.
But how do you think when young people see this, and is there some advice you can give to somebody to say, well, this is the route, that's the best route you have to take, gymnastics or dancing, or what would you say to somebody who's interested in doing it?
Yeah, I think it all depends on the discipline that you decide to go into. But I think it's, for me, the most important thing at the beginning is have your fundamentals of acrobatic, dance, aerial, because that's, I feel, in this day and age, has been lost a little bit, because now we have, Instagram and social media. So I'll have students come up to me going, can I do this most crazy skill in the world? Yet, they're learning how to do a pull-up, for example. And so for me, I feel as a responsibility of a coach, because I don't want people to get injured in a month's time, to help them have a longevity of a career. So I think at the beginning, focus on your fundamentals, have your acrobatic aerial fundamentals in place, have your corrective exercises in place, have your injury prevention, and then skills will naturally happen through progressions. And then once you have that, that periodized training program, then you're going to have a longer career. Then you're going to be able to go from progressions to regressions, which is super important as well, because sometimes, you need that for the body, because, if you're tired and doing 10 shows a week, you need to know how to adapt and listen to the body to maintain the level, but also not injure yourself.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's true what you're saying. Social media has many positives, but also that idea of you see something and you think it happened suddenly.
Yeah, exactly.
And people like you've been training for many, many years, so to get to that level where you can do these acts.
Yeah, exactly. And I've had it with recent contracts where I've had people that have never worked together before, and then expectations of like, okay, well, we want to see this, and we've got 1 week to do this. If you don't want people to get injured right now, then we need to go through these progressions. So this is why I'll go back to, like, the team really have to be on the same vision, the same alignment to achieve what they want to achieve acrobatically and artistically, and that everybody works together to do this. Because then if you have certain people that want to try to say this is more important than this, or this is more important than this, then you're going to have conflicts, you know what I mean? And that's going to affect the artist mentality and also the safety of the artist. So there you go. Like I've had it before where like people come, okay, I want to do this act, or I want to do this skill, and I'm like, we can achieve that, but this is the training program that we need to progress to achieve it.
But Stuart, you've done so much already, but what is the wish, or what is the dream?
I think right now it's I'm at a period in my life where I still love the stage and want to perform. And then I obviously have my coaching businesses, and it's all about, for me, like, giving back and giving my experience, knowledge, and education to artists who want it. You know what I mean? Because I've been there and done that, where, I've been fortunate to have worked with like some of the best coaches in the world, from competing, from performing, and directors, to be able to have lived this performing life. And yeah, it's been a roller coaster that the entertainment industry is. But I think right now, yeah, it's all about, I'm always opening to growing and working with new people, and just being an open book, whether it's coaching, whether it's performing, whether it's different acts. But yeah, I think I just want to work with and continue to give back, and this is through shows, but also into, like, fitness and businesses as well. I'm very interested in the consulting side of things, because I feel like the way we approach life as a competitor, as an artist, can also help, different, say, businesses of, like, say, having an afternoon, I used to work with a lot of privates in New York that were like engineers that work for Facebook and Instagram and stuff. And so like getting them, you know, when they're in the zone and, you know, working on their computer all day to then getting their body to move, you know what I mean? Because when your body feels good and your body wants to move, then you can go and attack the rest of the day and you feel good. So although my love is shows and into sports and working with studios and show companies, I would also love to work with, you know, fitness disciplines and businesses to have the mental and the physical approach to having this as a lifestyle to be able to achieve what you want to achieve.
And this comes back to all the transferable skills that you have when you do an art form, you know, and especially to that level. And you also see it in other fields, in creative fields, where people who are pursuing an art form, they also have skill sets that they can apply to other, you know, to other careers or other jobs, or just to enrich their lives.
Yeah, definitely, and that's why I like to call it a lifestyle. It's not like, okay, I'm going to train today, I'm going to work on my businesses today, then I'm going to coach in the evening. It's like it becomes a lifestyle, just from even having a morning routine to then compartmentalizing your day with all the tasks you have to do, physically and mentally. I think if we can bring that all together, then, you know, it helps our mindset, it helps our body, it helps us feeling good, and then
Exactly.
And then I think that's super important to connect all of that. You know what I mean? And then to give people the opportunity to understand how the body and mind can really, you know, work together to feel good, and then you've got a better mindset to, you know, go to work. You're not waking up going, oh, do I have to do this today? You know, if you get into these routines, like I have a whole morning routine of, like I say, meditations, breath work, body flows, you know, to start the day. And then, you know, you're in the right approach to achieve what you want to achieve.
Well, I'm very happy that I spoke to Peter Pan today.
Brilliant.
This is amazing. I was so fascinated too, and I saw your posts and so on and what you do, and so happy that I could talk to you. And so yeah, wonderful career, wonderful how dedicated and you know, how you really make it part, that's your life, you know, that's part of who you are. And yeah, I hope your dreams and wishes come true, because I mean, this is so inspirational, and you know, that people can gain something from.
Yeah, thank you for so much. I like I say, I love having these conversations, and yeah, I really appreciate you reaching out and for you to take the time to have these conversations. And yeah, like I say, I'm always happy to talk and discuss these projects. And yeah, anything you need, please reach out at any time.
Oh, thank you.